Every once in a while, I take a look at the comments section and find people asking me for a shoutout. For those who don't spend the entirety of their life on this website, a shoutout is when a bigger creator with a larger, more dedicated fan base asks their audience to subscribe to a smaller channel. This should hypothetically give the up-and-coming channel an early boost in numbers, potentially allowing them to use it as a jumping off point to kickstart their own career. But there's a fundamental issue here, that the audience subscribed to the recipient as a fan of the bigger creator, and 99% of the time, the audience would never choose to watch the smaller creator under other circumstances. It should be common knowledge at this point that shoutouts aren't the most effective method of garnering success on the internet. But something you might not know is that a shoutout from a big YouTuber doesn't just artificially inflate your numbers, but in some cases can actively hinder you from genuine success. This is the silent killer for some YouTube channels. And in this video, I'm gonna go through some cases. This is why YouTube shoutouts are fundamentally flawed, and why you probably shouldn't ask for them. But first, what's the process like to get a shoutout? While series with fan submissions have them in the background, and some YouTubers host shoutouts, most of the time, a shoutout happens because of a direct connection to the creator, whether you're related or if you're working together on the same project. But if you don't personally know a famous YouTuber, sorry. And while the prospect of gaining 100,000 or more subscribers for free may look promising on the surface, examining the data shows that there's a lot of negative factors building up underneath. There are a number of different ways a creator can give you a shoutout, with the varying levels of success being dictated by a number of varying factors. Streamers reacting to videos gives their audience an idea of the stuff you make, but you could also make the argument that it's stealing someone's content without permission. Sometimes they'll directly show and link your channel, but other times things can be lower effort, like showing the name on screen or just saying it out loud to the viewers. The more work needed to find the smaller channel, the less likely it is for people to go out of their way to check you out. And even if things do work out, and growth is actually achieved, it's possible, if not likely, that the channel may go through an identity crisis, being solely known as the guy who got a shoutout from someone more successful. Getting past that stigma while still maintaining that viewer base is the key to keeping long-term success from a shoutout. But even with this knowledge in mind, it's way easier said than done. None of these subscribers are here because they're interested in the content. They're only subscribed because a creator they're loyal to told them to hit a button. If the smaller channel already creates content similar to the one shouting them out, it's possible to retain some of that viewer base. But if you use a completely different style or genre of content, then it becomes all the more challenging, with the vast majority of those numbers being void. The algorithm may see the lack of engagement and dismiss it as undesirable because of its low click-through rate or view count, a position arguably worse than having nothing at all. But let's say you achieve the dream and get a shoutout from the one and only Mr. Jimmy Beast. Well, for some, this dream would become a reality, as the shoutout gave them tens of thousands of subscribers overnight. Mr. Beast is by far the most successful YouTuber around, and throughout his time on the site, he's given a number of smaller creators shoutouts to help them boost into the algorithm for a shot of long-term success. For his 2020 version of YouTube Rewind, he decided to give back to the community by telling the audience of 68 million viewers to subscribe to 3 channels with less than or around 1,000 subscribers. While these 3 came from completely different backgrounds and even countries, they were all brought together in a way. Let's see if these shoutouts worked out in the end. To lay down the groundwork, what would I classify as a successful shoutout? Well, to me, a successful shoutout gives a channel new active viewers and potential supporters. So, to be lenient, the shoutout works if the smaller channel is able to stick around and escape their label as a Mr. Beast shoutout winner. Amelia and Bridie was the first channel of the 3 to be shouted out, being shared between sisters Amelia and Bridie. The content they made revolved around home decor and thrift shopping, things that may have not been the easiest shift for Mr. Beast's audience of largely men. They had 412 subs before the shoutout, and 168,000 today. However, they only ever had 2 videos that got more views than their sub count, with the most popular being a reaction to the shoutout. As of a year ago, they've decided to leave the channel completely, and start fresh with individual channels of their own. Amelia and Bridie's personal channels are sitting at 779 and 1.5k respectively, an improvement from where they were before the shoutout, but I imagine it was ultimately worse than never getting it at all. Most YouTubers just want to release some videos and immediately get millions of views. But the problem with quick, sudden success is that it doesn't give you a long enough time to catch up and enjoy it. When the rise happens all at once, then you can only stick around for the fall. On platforms like TikTok, it's common to see creators catching lightning in a bottle, then spending the rest of their time on the site struggling to get back to that point. Whereas with more gradual success, you get time to build somewhat of a foundation, so that by the time you get more experimental and risky, you've already built enough of a back catalog to keep you afloat. Shoutouts don't allow for this. Amelia and Bridie had to sit back and watch as their channel would bleed subscribers with each passing video, leaving them in a place barely better than where they began. Being the second channel to get a shoutout, Soyan Osman went from 241 to 160,000. His most popular video was sitting at almost 1 million views. Of course, his reaction to Mr. Beast giving him a shoutout. While he started out making videos about the general music industry, after the shoutout he tried to keep the ball rolling by shifting to more influencer-inspired content. Whether it's music related, like his reaction to Corpse Husband's music, or a video talking about what Jake Paul winning in boxing means for his career. But once again, very few of those who subscribed actually watched his videos, with more and more people getting up and leaving every time he released a new one. I imagine the negative growth would prove to make content creation less enjoyable. At some point, he stopped making YouTube videos to move over to working on his band, Nalterdeeds, with their Instagram still being active to this day. The Mr. Beast shoutout having faded away, its impact only being left on his main channel. The third and most popular of the three, Nalterdeeds, had 1.45 thousand before the shoutout, and he also grew the most afterwards, currently having 250,000 subscribers. While over 100,000 of them came directly from the shoutout, another 100k subs would be gained when he started releasing YouTube shorts talking about his experience. After making a few videos about things he was interested in, he realized that he'd get the most success talking about stuff that the Mr. Beast fans would enjoy. Something he noticed, as his most popular videos would all have one name in the title: Mr. Beast. He quickly changed his style to more Mr. Beast inspired videos, but he chose not to stick with it due to it feeling fake and disingenuous. He made a new channel for something he was more interested in, opening collectible cards, but even that seems to have been abandoned for months. The only channel he's active on frequently is another project, a vlogging channel called Fun Across America. Besides that, he's almost completely pivoted to working with and managing other channels and businesses, as he outlines on his Twitter page. He made a video about the negatives of his experience, while also remembering to stay grateful for the success he gained. And in the comments, we could find none other than Amelia and Bridie and Soyan Osman, both of whom relate heavily with what he has to say. Again, these are 3 different channels from 3 different places with different styles of content, united by a shoutout in one video, and brought through the emotions of instantaneous success and the slow dissension that followed, bringing these channels, these people, together. And that was the real issue with the Rewind shoutouts. Jimmy gave back to the community, but the community consists of regular everyday people, and not experienced entertainers. He would keep this in mind while deciding how to go about his next shoutout. For his video, Get This Random Person 1 million subscribers, 4 different channels were competing to get a shoutout from Mr. Beast. Unlike the other 3 from the Rewind video, the whole focus of the video was to give a shoutout to one guy, being the winner of the challenge, Zealous. After his win, he went from 50,000 subscribers to nearly 2 million. He's the only shoutout here that actually worked out, and that's because his content already followed a similar style to Mr. Beast, or at very least, a general YouTube audience. So the viewers adapted to the new content, and now he's grown a following of his own. And that's because the video he was in had quite a bit more thought put into it than the shoutouts from the rewind. While I'm not hounding on Jimmy, he already gets enough shit on Twitter, I think choosing 3 random channels with varying types of content out of a bowl was a bad move. He had good intentions for sure, but in execution, it needed a bit more work. And he kept all the negatives in mind while he went about promoting Zealous. First of all, let's look at the other contestants in the challenge: Pretty Bored, Isaiah Photo, and Unnecessary Inventions. The first thing you'll notice is that they all go for the same sanitized video topics, videos that would be most likely for a general YouTube audience to watch and enjoy. This already gives them a massive boost compared to the 3 random people shouted out in the rewind, which all tailored to more niche topics of personal interests. Because the channels in the rewind video weren't influencers, they were genuine content creators that made videos solely out of their own personal interest. If you need a shoutout to grow, your videos are probably not entertaining enough for that audience in the first place. I had 100 subs when my content was bare bones, definitely not worth more than 100 subs, and as the quality went up, so did my sub count. Any small channel that just makes good videos consistently is pretty much guaranteed to get some sort of recognition in the long run. And by sidestepping this important point in the process, the creator might miss out on some important lessons in making entertaining videos. This may sound really stupid, but after 7 years on YouTube with only 150 subscribers, I finally learned the first step to growing on YouTube. Make videos other people would actually want to watch. It may sound really obvious and straightforward, but before that point, it hadn't even crossed my mind. But I don't regret not learning it sooner. All those years of making videos for myself showed that I was always here for the long haul, and that I enjoy the video creation process, even when I had little to no actual success. Now tell me, if Mr. Beast gave 13-year-old me a shoutout, would I be at this point today? In conclusion, don't ask people for shoutouts. Just make good videos instead. In late 2021, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine who was first getting into the YouTube grind. I gave him the advice to continuously make high quality videos. That way, if he ever gets that first big break, his entire backlog of quality content would blow up with him, leading to more explosive growth when the day finally arrives. That friend was Sournail. And unsurprisingly, when you look back at the old catalog of videos, they almost all blew up. Real, genuine growth. Which, obviously, is a whole lot better than a shoutout.